Yeah, I think we're going to find ourselves in violent agreement through most of this. It's kind of scary. But
if you guys wanted to fight, you came to the wrong place.
It's really cool. I think that this false dichotomy, I'm a moon person, I'm a Mars person, screw that. I mean, it's really not true. It's all of the above. It's all of the above. If we get the right infrastructure built, and this is one reason I support the president's initiative, if we can get the right coastal infrastructure built on the deep ocean of space, then we can go anywhere and we can stay everywhere. And we can go to all of these destinations and do all of these kinds of things. And that, to me, is the goal. It's a matter of each one of us going out and doing what we want to do. The profit, as defined in Space 2, can be a financial profit, as in what the private sector businesses are looking for, or a cultural profit, which Chris is talking about, the PhDs. That's a profit to our culture. That is a benefit to our culture. We got to watch out that we let too many of these STEDs and ISU students out there. It's going to be trouble. There's going to be some wild parties on the moon and Mars.
So it happens in Antarctica now. It's all gone to hell.
Yeah, it's just, I can't wait to see what they grow in the greenhouse. Anyway, the thing is, though, that there's all kinds of activities, too, that the private sector can leverage off of. The commercial icebreakers is a great example of that. We're not quite there as far as orbital transfer, space to space, as I call it, vehicles. That kind of area is still wide open to be pioneered by the government sector and not quite ripe yet to be handed off to the private sector. Although, again, these are soft edges. I remember when my friends were starting suborbital companies because they were going to work their way from suborbital to orbit, and here comes Elon. And he just kind of jumps to the front of the line, and there goes OSC with them because there's contract money there, and off we go, and Boeing Bigelow's coming along and all of that. So what we need to see, though, is somebody sent me something once, it was a long time ago, and it's about decision. And it's a matter of making the decision. And once you make the decision, everything else starts to line up behind that. And, and all manner of unforeseen things come your way that enable you. We have to decide as a country or as a people that this is something we want to do. And real quick, I want to separate exploration for pure science from what maybe pre-settlement or frontier enabling exploration a little bit. They do fit together, but first to understand them, there's, what's his name, Dr. Parks or something like that. I bumped into him, I think it's him, I've bumped into him a couple times. He's like toasters in space, forget the humans. The idea, people talk about robots versus people. I love that because you get that from radio people or people that are interviewing you for magazines. As a pro-settlement person, I can't have that discussion. It's like Star Trek without the voice translator. It's all garbled to me. I don't understand what you're saying, okay? Robots, toasters don't breathe. Okay, our goal is human settlement of space, or the carrying of organic life into space, if you want to go to the big picture. Of course you send robots first or to places that are uninhabitable at this stage by organic life or human life. Of course you do, or it's more economical. Then you follow it with people. But to me, it's not an either-or choice. You do both, you do them in the right sequence, but the end result is human beings and Earth life on the spot. Now we have to figure out, and this is kind of our discussion here, the right mix of what our government does and enables and what we in the private sector can pick up and do that helps everybody. So toss it back to you.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to phrase it. I also don't have much patience for the false dichotomy of robots versus humans. It is deeply rooted within NASA for structural reasons. The robotic Mars program is funded in one code and human exploration is funded in another, so they compete for resources at that level. It's interesting if you look at the way the National Science Foundation organizes Antarctic exploration, they don't make that mistake. In the Antarctic code, both the science and logistics components are together. So there's an office in NSF, National Science Foundation, and everybody that works in Antarctica, whether they're in charge of airplanes and icebreakers or whether they're in charge of biological or geological science, sits in the same office. They all report to the same boss. The overall goal of that directorate is explore Antarctica, do the science, get the people there, maintain U.S. presence, maintain U.S. preeminence in Antarctica. That's the whole goal. There's a unified concept of what that division is about. At NASA, the folks that are doing the science of the moon and Mars are over here, and the folks that are in charge of building the infrastructure or getting us there are over there, and they compete. They don't work together. It's a interesting difference, and it's a budgetarily induced, bureaucratically induced dichotomy, not an intrinsic one. But going back to what Rick ended his statement with, what is the role of NASA from inside, and I've been inside for so long I can't remember what it's like outside, from inside NASA. NASA will work best if it's given a science job, said go establish a research base on the moon and Mars, and investigate those planets, bring in the best scientists, produce the best science, do what you need to do that. The same way NSF was given a charter to do Antarctic science. Now, in order to do that, we will need to send people and equipment there. We'll need to develop life support systems. We will need to do or buy or build all sorts of things. But we'll have a clear science-driven goal. Investigate the moon, establish a U.S. research base on it to generate scientific return and to maintain U.S. preeminence in any discussions about the moon, which is exactly why we have a base in Antarctica. Same on Mars. NASA could do that job very well. And if there was private sector rockets available, we would buy them. There's an interesting story in Antarctica. When I first started going there, all the flying was done by the military. All the helicopters, all the planes, it was all done by the military. Now, it's contracted out. There was a transition from government-operated to private sector, and that was the result of advances in the capability of private sector companies that were now essentially capable of running polar operations, mostly because of all the work that had been done in the Arctic supporting oil exploration. So there were now pilots and companies that specialized in this. Ken Borick developed capabilities in the Arctic, and we realized, well, why don't we charter these in Antarctica? It's cheaper than doing it ourselves. And that same transition has to happen. Meanwhile, the mission of the U.S. Antarctic program has never changed. Scientific exploration of Antarctica done in such a way as to maintain U.S. preeminence in all things Antarctic. That's our mission. And that will continue to be a mission. It's a perfectly good mission for a government organization. And that same mission statement could be applied to the moon and Mars. We sometimes within NASA get confused between the goal and the means to the goal. I don't get confused, even though I'm inside NASA. I clearly see the goal as investigation of these other worlds with the ultimate understanding of how to enhance the richness and diversity of life in the universe. That's our ultimate goal.